Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, it's good because we are officially starting to go down a strategic path. I love the responses you all shared in terms of what you hope to get out of this class, your think back exercise. Some of you were experiencing physical discomfort and pain and headaches. We have migraines in the group. We had people who were stressed. We had people who weren't getting enough sleep. So we're really looking at the perfect time to be strategic, and all of you have sent such positive feedback about being excited and realizing, one of you very, very succinctly put it, that, I always wanted a seat at the table, but I was dessert, and that until we get to the meat and the potatoes, the real substance, I won't get a seat at the table. So Global Meetings Industry Day, I guess it was 2 years ago, I was on a stage in Chicago, and it was a wonderful crowd. And one of the things I had said to them is, with strategy, you don't just get a seat at the table, you own the table. And people were very appreciative of that statement, and it's true. And the reason that I say that is because when you are strategic, and there are things you're going to continue to hear over and over, you are the critical intersection between sales and marketing. You are the most powerful tool a company has at its disposal when it comes to accelerating a sales cycle and influencing what people feel, think, say, and do. I've mentioned I will keep repeating things. It goes back to the rule of 7, which we are also going to cover while we're going through these modules. So one of the things that's really important for you to understand is that events are the only 3-dimensional embodiment of a company's marketing message. I want to copyright that sentence because I've been saying it for years, and until it clicks, once it clicks, it clicks. So I've been to chief marketing officer meetings and events, and when these people present, they talk about marketing campaigns and social media and advertising and guerrilla advertising and all these incredible product placement, all these really creative, interesting, expensive ways to market. But what always seems to be lacking, and I'll be honest, when I say always, I have never heard a marketer, while they're talking about best marketing practices, talk about events. So here's the thing. Until our marketing executives and our sales executives realize that events are the only 3-dimensional embodiment of a company's marketing and sales message, everything else is just a flat medium. So here's the way this works. How many of you have seen an ad with George Clooney in it? It may be his Nespresso ad. It may be him wearing a designer watch. He's been in quite a few commercials. So my imagination is, and I think you would join me in this, it probably cost the company a lot of money. It probably cost Nespresso a fair amount of money to get George Clooney to advertise coffee. The good news is, I remember Nespresso and I remember George Clooney. The irony is, I've never had a cup of coffee in my life, and the Nespresso commercials will not influence my purchasing decision because I do not buy coffee. But here's the thing. Even if it did inspire me to buy coffee, it's still a flat medium. So even if George Clooney were two-way messaging me, and they set it up so that, George Clooney would text you, it's still a flat medium. It's still not a 3-dimensional experience. And we're talking about innovation in the experience economy. So what we need to really learn to articulate, and we've talked about, we need a shared voice, we need a shared vision, we need a shared vocabulary. Until we can articulate that a 3-dimensional experience, no matter how much you pay for George Clooney, it's a flat medium. Everything is a flat medium except for an event. The only true experience, 3-dimensional experience, is with an event. So we are that critical intersection. No one can do what you as a strategist do. Now here's where the disconnect is, because we've been doing events for years and that's not happening. People aren't looking at us as incredibly powerful. It's because we're planning logistics. So let me ask you a question. How do you feel when you cross everything off your to-do list? Okay. How many of you are making a face right now saying, I've never finished a to-do list? The to-do list always, you start writing on the to-do list, create a next to-do list, right? The to-do list is never done. How many of you have a grocery list? Okay. So when you finish crossing everything off your grocery list, has anything monumental happened? Yes, your family's fed for a couple of days, but it is not something that affects permanent change or creates, any kind of catharsis, right? No one has changed from the experience. I appreciate people perhaps no longer hungry and somebody's thrilled you bought cookies, but you're going to have the same problem again in, a week, 2 weeks, depending on how much your family eats, right? You are not actually solving a problem permanently. And that's because food shopping is logistics, right? So if you think about when you have a list of things to do for your event, and you need to order the flowers, you need to design the flowers, you need to have the flowers delivered, those are logistics. So when you cross everything off your list, and your POE is a very beautiful, wonderful list, okay? It's a great document, but it's a list. What happens when, where, and who's in charge of it? So you execute perfectly. You create a logistically flawless event. What you've basically done is crossed everything off a grocery store list or crossed everything off the first side of your to-do list. It doesn't matter. It's you're going to do it again anyway. So you didn't create any kind of meaningful change. And that's why right now, for as long as we stay in tactical mode, we're just going to be seen as order takers. And what I'm going to do is take you from order taker to decision maker, which is another one of my favorite little things that I've coined. So until we truly get that connect in our head, and most of you have already started talking about, I want to be more strategic. Oh, I understand. Terry was talking about, I need to be more strategic. I've missed the boat. Well, here's the problem. So have your bosses, so have your marketing executives, so has everyone who has come before us, with the exception of the very few enlightened, and we need more people to come together to share our voice. I have been preaching this for 10 years, and industry organizations have said to me, yeah, there's not that much of an appetite for that. There's really not an audience for that. So, throughout my experience. So we need to create the ripple and create the need and the groundswell for this to happen, because when this changes, everything changes. So what I'm going to do is hit pause. I'm going to give you an assignment. After this, I'm going to do a quick video on the difference between an event and an experience, so that you can actually feel the difference instead of just talking about it. And one of the things that I do want to point out, I've been told I put a lot of different components into my class, whereas in other classes you may only have 2 or 3 assignments or 2 or 3 things to watch or to read. To me, this is about connecting dots. And if I can put 36 things into a class, when you start to realize that everything ties into everything else, and at some point during this, you're going to realize, oh, wait a minute, she had me do that think back exercise because of this. And, oh, wait a minute, when I read that article, that applies to this. Because strategy is, when we talk about our universal truths and our 3 universal principles, it's all based on strategy. Think about, start with the end in mind. So if you know what your goal is, and then you follow the 3 universal principles, it's not about you. You have to answer what's in it for me and give to gain. That is the embodiment of strategy. And yes, I've given you 5 steps on how to do it, but all of this comes together and it will allow you to achieve anything you set your mind to. Some of you have talked about wanting to get a particular job. You can crush any job provided you're qualified for it, because we're going to teach you that if you use the universal principles, you will land this job, and we'll talk about why. So I'm going to hit pause. I just want to, again, this was my way of just getting you excited, because we are on our way, and this week is going to be amazing as we dive deeper into strategy. So this was kind of our introduction for this week, and away we go. Great things await. So looking forward to taking this second week journey with you, and great things await. See you soon.